Thank you so much for having me, and also for creating the time to join us for this learning session on knowledge management, an area I'm very passionate about. This morning, for just about 60 minutes or so, we'll be able to talk about all things knowledge, right? What is it? What does it look like for you as an individual? What does it look like for you as an employee or a staff? Or even as a CEO, you have your own organization. What does knowledge look like? All right. If you are to give it a currency, if you are to give it a color, if you are to have some return on investment on what knowledge does to your organization, that's what we want to talk about today. How can we monetize knowledge? How can we ensure that we are future centric? And more importantly, how can we become knowledge-centric organizations? And what does it mean when it comes to all that? And why is it even important? Everything is trending these days. If you want something trending, you just need to make a lot of noise about it. So what does knowledge need to be that? Another trendy thing that organizations are doing. And especially in the content and the continent we are in, other continents, other spaces, knowledge management has been something that people have talked about in a long time. When you look at case studies that have been done, big organizations, the likes of Toyota, the likes of Amazon, the likes of motor industries and all that. And a lot of it is in the army, interestingly enough, and the oil industry. Why that is happening or why that has happened, I think there's industries that, again, as we see later in the session, depending on what your industry you are working with, what industry you are working on, but also what your vision as an organization is, then that will be able to see where you are focusing when it comes to knowledge. As an introduction, I'm a certified knowledge manager and an L&D specialist. I've been in the development sector for a while now, but started off in the private sector. So I've done many things. I wear many hats. For today, I'll be in knowledge management. In other spaces, I'm a learning specialist. I'm a career coach, talent manager. So again, trying to be as versatile as possible, but again, trying to respond to my personality, and my preferences. So again, not tied to one line, but that doesn't mean I'm a jack of all trades. No, I try to align myself and my career in areas that I feel pulled to. So to start off, we can talk about knowledge, as I mentioned in the beginning. Just take a minute and think about, when you think about the word knowledge, right? Just that knowledge. Even if you want to translate it from your mother tongue, right? Even if, like for me, I would think about it in Swahili. What does knowledge mean for me? When I say I'm knowledgeable in this matter, right? This person is knowledgeable in this matter. My organization knows this. Does that mean a skill, right? Does that mean something you possess, an experience you bring to the table? Does that mean progressive experiences? Let's say, for example, for myself, I've worked in different organizations, in different capacities. And in all these capacities, what does knowledge look like for me? And what I knew 10 years ago, what I knew 15 years ago, how usable is that in this age, 2024, in the areas you're working in, right? Because, I want you to start thinking about, when people talk about institutional memory, this person is an organization asset. This person is, when they leave, memory, knowledge loss has happened. What does that mean for you? Because that is going to inform what strategies you put in place to protect that knowledge, to nurture that knowledge, but also to a strategy to be able to manage it. And that's what is just knowledge management. And again, when you look at it from the point of view of organizations, in this meeting we are about 28 of us. There's a study that was done and showed that 40% of us in an organization spend about at least a quarter of our time looking for something, looking for a resource, looking for this. And again, I want you to think of that time you needed to develop that proposal and something had been done previously. You went and searched for it. You got draft one in a demo screen, in a demo's server, or then you got draft two, then final draft one, then final draft two, right? Then you finally got the PDF that was signed by your organization, and it's not signed by the other organization. So what does that mean? Is that a final output that you are looking for? Will that be able to inform you that this is the actual decision? Then you have to go back to the other organization to ask them, kindly share with us the final draft, the final signed agreement or the contract or the proposal that you did. And then they're able to sign back, share it back with you. How long did that take you? Right? And where did the back fall? And again, this is information that maybe was done 3 years ago, 5 years ago. Staff have left, systems have changed. So, and that is still knowledge. Okay. So with that background and just showing why is it important for us to think about how we protect our knowledge and where knowledge comes from. Because again, it doesn't come from just, we decide, wake up and we decide, oh, this is knowledge now. It must come from something else. Next slide, please. So to help us understand where knowledge is coming from, or where that proposal that you developed and you are looking for comes from, I want us to think through this pyramid. It's the data, information, knowledge, wisdom pyramid. Okay? So when you think, just look at this document or this picture and try to go back to your desk in the morning. You wake up in the morning. You start on your laptop or your machine, or you're dealing with customers, you're dealing with funders, you're dealing, in your industry. Where do you spend most of your time? Is it in the first block? Is it in the second block, the third block, or even the fourth one? Right? And to help us understand how we can actually implement a good strategy, we'll be able to need to understand what are we working on with now, whatever you're working on. Are you someone who, the one who generates data? And your work is just to generate data, bring us information, you bring it, and that's it. Because again, we have a lot of discussion coming about data analytics now. What does that mean to organization? How do we go up the ladder? Do we need to just work on the bottom block of data? All right, so let's try and understand what each of these means and how this influences how we are able to see how data and knowledge is all about. Next slide, please. So let's start with the data. We saw it's the beginning of the first block. It's the foundation. So raw data you bring in, you're just someone who goes in, collects data and all that and bring it. And when you want to see the difference of these blocks, we can use, like, for example, I'm just tasked to go in and bring in data. And then I'm able to just say, and I want to take you with me in this journey. Just write this down: 26102024. I said 26102024. That's it. You get that. And you get a lot of those numbers. They are numerical. It's raw, it's unorganized and all that. So with that kind of, even if you saw a piece of paper with that kind of, with those numbers, you'd start thinking, is this a PIN number? Is this an account number? What does it mean? In an organization, there are so many numbers we get from that. Thanks, Michael. But now, if you want to appreciate this data, sorry, I'm just looking at my notes as you get the background in noise. We need to put it into context now, right? So we are trying to go up the pyramid. We need to put it into context. But when you start thinking that 26102024 is, for example, in the context of time, it's today's date, right? So if we start now to contextualize, if we don't contextualize, the numbers are just numbers. That's where data is, right? And try to think about data in, again, back to your organization. When you look at your filing system, how much data is there? How much can you tell when you look at your filing system? When you're trying to look for that proposal that you are looking for, when you get draft 1 up to draft 3 and then final drafts, is that informational enough? At least you'll know there was a trap, right? But then again, data is that you have to contextualize it, but also it's a lot of it, because you see, from the pyramid, it forms the basis and the biggest part of the pyramid. So data will come in as much as you go looking for it. And then again, in the times you're living in technology, access to internet and all that, you will get as much data as you can. And even in organizations with the search engines, you just need to put in a name or even a number, and you get as much information on data. So how can we use this data that we have to make it, to go up the pyramid? Then think about it. Now we start contextualizing it. All right. Then 26102024, when you put it into context of a time, date, then we have today's date. So you see, again, we are able to contextualize it. And then that takes us to the next building block. Next slide, please. Yes, so we have information. So we had our number that now we have contextualized. We asked, what is it about? It's about a date. When is it? It's on Saturday. What does that number concern me? Well, I had booked it to attend a certain webinar on knowledge management. So you see, us starting to see that. And because, again, of technology, digital advancement, we have things and tools that will help us contextualize. For example, we have our calendars that give us a pop-up, a reminder. We have this upcoming event. So again, we are not starting from zero when you talk about knowledge management. We have tools that can help us be able to advance more. So we are talking about the who, the what, the when, and where. Then we start measuring, we start visualizing this information. All right? Because again, depending on the purpose, so you start aggregating the data that we had. You remember the big chunk that we had of data? You start aggregating it, put it into different ways. In organizations, a report from finance may mean something different to HR, something different to marketing, something different to sales. So that's what you're talking about, aggregating that data. And then now we bring in this discipline of information management. So can we stop there and say, I'm good enough? I have my data, I have my information, I'm good. Or do we need to go up the ladder again? All right. By how now we start asking, because when you look at these 4 questions, there's one that is critical that we have not answered yet, right? So we have the who, we have the what, we have the when, and the where. Just take a second or two to start thinking, okay, I could stop here as an organization. I will have my information analyst will be telling me this is what we have, right? This is accurate or not accurate. We'll be able to aggregate it and give each unit their own. But if we stop there, what is this data not telling us? Or what is this information not telling us? All right? I just want you to sit for a moment and think, what is this not telling us? There's something or not. Again, you could pause to stop there and say, I will manage my information as it is. But if you want to do well in organizations and in businesses, there's a question that we need to ask, which we can see in the next slide, please. It's on the how, right? how are we going to, how do we use this information? Let's connect the pieces. Let's be able to understand how to apply the information to achieve our goal. Because, as we said, I get a report from, let's say I'm in learning and development, and finance tells me, oh, we need to cut the budget for 2025. Okay, that's there. The what we need to do. The when is 2020. What do we need to do? Cut the budget. When? 2025, right? The who is finance has told me it's come to the L&D unit, right? And then the where is, of course, in the organization. I could stop there and say, okay, inshallah, let's wait for 2025 and God help us all. Or I could say, okay, how does this help me plan for my 2025? What plans did I have for 2025? All right. And start thinking, okay, I need to plan now, right? What do I need to cut? What do I need to repurpose? What do I need to get new? So the how is how knowledge is going to help us move up the ladder. Can we do without it? Maybe. Should we do without it? Maybe not. Right? So when we think about the importance of knowledge, is now it brings it back to me. Someone will bring me information. Adebo will bring me information. How I use it, that's what differentiates between different organizations. So it's different pieces of information that you get, put them together, mix them together, and come up with a plan. Once you come up with a plan, and again, for purposes of this session, we'll be able to focus on the knowledge. But again, for purposes of us thinking through, we can talk about knowledge, wisdom. So next slide, please. So wisdom brings in the final bit of the building block. It's putting it into action. So I know the how, then how do I plan in future? How do I do this and do that? So again, that brings the whole pyramid into shape. Most of the time, the knowledge and the wisdom are interlinked because you know the how to do it, and then what is the best case scenario, then you work with that. Okay? So when you look at it from that angle, we have a lot of data, and as we go through it, as we aggregate it, as we investigate it, it keeps narrowing down to information. Then you start asking the questions, does it relate to me? Who is it about? Then how do I use this information? So the pyramid keeps going narrower and narrower until the T. So when, again, go back to your organization and think, where am I at? Where do I focus in? Or whatever work I'm doing, is it so much on the data? And if it is, again, there's no bad place to start, because we do need the data to come in, and maybe we do need the data to go out. But also, my knowledge may be Adebo's data, or Michael's information could be my data, depending on where I am at that point. So we don't want to say, no, we don't deal with data. No, every piece of information, every piece of resource is necessary for us to be able to do that. Okay, so let me just pause there for it to think, to sink in a bit. But think of data and information as something that looking at the past, because you see, you'll get data for stuff that has happened, something that has already happened. But knowledge and wisdom is what we want to achieve in the future. Yes, XYZ has happened. That's data, that's information. Knowledge and wisdom is what do we do now and what do you want to achieve in the future. Okay, so for, again, purposes of this discussion, let's focus on the knowledge, the how are we using this knowledge. So next slide, please. So we've talked about knowledge. So in an organization, there are many different types of knowledge, but we'll focus on three: explicit, implicit, and tacit. I won't go much into what does this all mean, but just as a scan through, And this is information, again, once you Google on the internet, you can find much details that can speak to you. So when we talk about explicit, this is documentation, the know-how, your policies, the proposals that we did, that we had mentioned earlier. This is when I come to your organization's website, filing system, I can get that. And then, so that is easy to get, easy to target. I can see it, it's tangible, right? It's documentation, files that you have put, books that you have developed. Implicit is a bit fragile because this is the know-how, right? How we do things, the processes that we have. Some are documented, right? And it becomes difficult to be able to bring them to life. So they're intangible for that matter. So again, both of them they could be documented. They're the know-hows of the organization. And then we bring in the tacit. So this is knowledge that is held in individuals, right? So what I bring to the table, my progressive experience so far. So that's another very, it's an intangible kind of knowledge that we find in organizations. Those are the skills, the competencies that I come with that constitutes knowledge for an organization that I am working with and for at that instant. Okay. So again, when you think of these three, which one do you think is the hardest to manage? All right, or which one do we need to leave out when we are talking about knowledge management? Okay, so we have the processes that we have documented. We have the how to do things. Some are documented, but also there's implicit knowledge that is held into people. When you think about subject matter expertise or people who have been in an organization for a long time, this is how we've always done things. And if there's a training, they're the ones who are going to train, and they're so good at it, they don't even need to develop a presentation. So they just come out with it. So for purposes of this session, let's go through with this lens, the three types of knowledge: explicit, implicit, and tacit. So the difference between implicit and tacit is that implicit is also, yes, experience that is gained through experience. So experience that comes with time is also documented. It can be documented or not. Again, they do overlap over each other between implicit and tacit. But now when you document it, let's say someone has done a memoir, someone has done a wiki, like how to do the frequently asked questions. Again, those do fall under implicit. So it's the tacit knowledge that can be converted to a document, to a resource, to a webinar, to all that. Because now it's come out of myself, right? And I've shared. Let's say now through this session now, my tacit knowledge has been documented through the PowerPoint presentation, through this particular webinar. So it becomes implicit. The thing about implicit in that is that it has to be updated every so often, just like explicit, but also it's very fragile because it's most of the time tied with the subject matter expertise, depending on that person's knowledge there. So it can vary. My implicit, Adebo's implicit, may vary depending on our experiences and where we've come from. How do we manage these three types of knowledge? Knowledge management. What is that? Right? And I won't go into like this is the definition, because again, as versatile as knowledge is, the same way is its definition. It will mean different things to different people, but it's all about what processes do we put in place to create, to develop, to share the knowledge that we have, right? What do we have in place, right? Again, going back to my example of the proposal that we are doing, what that process that I went through, looking for the first draft, the second draft, the final draft one, and all that whole process. How do we ensure that you have even a process to start with? Do we have a shared folder Do you have a server, a shared server that people can access to? And again, because you're seeing people working in global organizations, it becomes quite easy to now understand this process and do it as a by the way, you're supposed to save these documents here. Or even by the time you get your laptop to work with, if you're in a global organization, it's already set up for you to know where to save the documentation. So that makes it easy. There's even processes on how to do that. And you can't save with capital letters. You can have to put dates, you have to put all this. So again, that is how far data management, knowledge management, information management has come. So when it comes to knowledge management, it's just that process of how do we create new data? How do we create new information, new knowledge? What processes are there? Are we able to ensure that we are efficient, we are able to satisfy our customers and even ourselves? And when you think about knowledge management without the definition, just think when our clients want to know about my business, where do they go to? Don't even think of marketing, right? Where do they go to? What are they going to find? Right? It's not about brand management. It's not about anything. Just think of what information is out there about your organization. That's the first. When I want to know about an organization, or when I want to know about somebody, where do I go to first? Do I go to LinkedIn? Do I go to? So just think of where does your knowledge lie? So that really is where your knowledge is, or where knowledge management is. So in terms of creating, sharing, managing resources and information. And again, when you think about it from that angle, you'll be like, okay, I can't do this alone. It's a multidisciplinary approach. You have to have the right technology, the right content, right? As we will see that later. So there are so many things you have to think about when you think about your organization or your business. So who needs to know about me? What do I need to know? How much time do I need to spend knowing about this person? How much time does it take me to from understanding someone, creating content for them or a proposal, and it going out to be signed, right? So that is what you want to talk about. How do we manage that knowledge? And for us to understand that, we start going deep down into the strategy. How do we develop this strategy? But hoping that the discussion so far from what your knowledge comes from, about data, where information is, about your knowledge, how do you convert that to be future centric, thinking about the future? How do we bring it all together to develop a strategy? All right, so let's go deep again, or to talk about knowledge management strategy. Okay, again, I won't go much into the definition. There are many definitions, but I just want you to sit and think, in my business, in my organization, in my work, what matters to me most, right? Because a strategy it can be good. We can develop a nice strategy, put it in paper, it's signed up, we launch it so well, and then you file it, and that's it. But how does that help us, right? These are different definitions from different organizations and books of what a strategy is all about. I don't want to focus on, reading word by word. But the key thing is enhancing productivity and efficiency. As you can look from the three definitions, either to boost productivity and efficiency, enhance innovation, competitive advantage. So again, why are we talking about this? We need to know, how do we align it with our goals as a business, right? How does me spending 2 hours looking for a document or 2 hours developing a similar process that was done 2 years ago by a different unit affect my efficiency, my productivity? And again, remember, we said 40% spend almost a quarter of their time looking for something or searching. So imagine if it's a day, it's 8 hours. You spend about 2 hours, 3 hours looking for a document. It may not seem much because you'll be talking to this person and having a chat here and having a chat there, and then you'll be like, you know what, I'm done. Let me just develop a new one, right? So we want to see, how do we develop plan, if you want to call it an action plan, if you want to call it a strategy, to help us manage all that we've discussed, right? Do we have a space where, subject matter expertise are, have spaces to share their knowledge? How do we manage the documentation we have? But most so importantly, how do we manage the tacit knowledge? Because we are good at hiring good people, right? We bring in the best in the best talent. We keep them, you know, they are with us for 10 years, 15 years, and then it's time for them to go. These people have grown into the business, into the industry. They know so much. How have they handheld someone else? Can we share that? Or after they leave, be like, oh, that guy used to do that. Oh, he used to be the good person in that. Or even right now in your organization or in your business, do you know who is good at what? Not skill wise, but who is that person that you will go to every time you need something about customer A or donor B or community C, if you're working, depending on which area you're working in. So think of that as you develop your strategy. Do you know what you know as a business in relations to your industry? Do you know what you don't know? Right? Because most organizations will be like, oh, we don't know this. We need to learn this. Then you bring in. But have you ever sat and thought, what do we know really? So let's talk about that when you talk about knowledge management as a strategy. But again, let's not focus so much on the definition, right? Let's not focus so much on the definition, because a successful knowledge management strategy will try to align with the business goals. So think of it from that angle, like what's my goal for the business? So again, we'll be able to talk about that as we go out in the future. And the strategy will mean different things to different organizations, even organizations doing the same kind of work, because we have also organization maturity. So where are we now? Are we just starting? Are we 10 years in? Are we 15 years, 50 years in? Because we do not want to try to map ourselves with someone who's been there for ages and they have developed themselves quite keenly. Okay. So let me pause there for a second for us to try and internalize and see how can this look like in my organization? Do I need to just take our organization strategy and copy paste? Do I need to highlight a few things? Do I need to just go through the motions? How do I bring this strategy together? Because it's a strategy, it's important to bring in other units. We'll be able to see how to be able to do that. We want to now get into developing a knowledge management strategy. But also, why is it important for us to develop a knowledge management strategy? Do you think that, we've been doing well? We could tweak a few things here. How does us having a knowledge sharing session help us as an organization? How does us as an organization having an action after action review meeting, how does it help a CEO sitting for a brown bag or a lunch and learn to hear about 3 people who went for a training or a conference? They come and just, this is what we learned. How does that help in terms of sharing best practices? And do we ever promote learning from failures, or are we just like, if it's bad, you let it slide? But how can we ensure that knowledge is able to be measurable? We can measure, we can able to get the best out of it. So let's talk about a strategy. So like any other strategy, it has components. So we have the 5 components. We could say, technology is the best. We need technology because technology has aided me to be able to engage with you in wherever you are sitting in. But is that the best or the most important? I don't know. I don't have the answer to that, but just try and think which of these 5 would mean the most for you in where you're sitting in. And then remember, we did say it means various things to various people, but the strategy is one and the same in terms of what it needs to accomplish. It's about innovation, it's about efficiency, productivity, and all that. So which of these 5 do you think would be a do or die for your organization? Which one do you need? Or which one can you say, we don't need that? Maybe culture. No, we are good as we are. We don't need to shift anything, right? So when you think about people, as you think about your strategy, think of who are your customers. So when you think about people and versus processes versus technology, content and culture, how do people in your organization communicate to start with? How do you share? If you share, let's start there. If you share, how do you share your information? Do you have thought leaders? Do you have subject matter expertise? Do you have, those people who are good at something and they have skills to show that? They have proven with enough ways that they are thought leaders in this topic that you're talking about. Again, because you're talking about knowledge, it's not one topic. It's not just marketing. It's not just sales. How do we combine all that to become what are we going to do next? Because think of it from a business. We have the salespeople who are projecting, we need to do this. We have the finance team who are like, we can't take this risk. And then you have the technical people or the production people. How do you make these people speak the same language when it comes to knowledge, right? What information do they need from each of them? And then the makeup of these people. So you have to bring in everybody together. All right. So that is on people. And are they working in silos? Again, a term that many people want to say, let's break the silos. Let's break the silos. What does that really mean? Do we need to break those silos, or can we work with those silos? Right? Again, a discussion to start thinking about when think about how do you develop a strategy. And then let's go to processes. Remember, we talked about what, go back to the screen and the other screen. So processes, it's about what steps are we putting in terms of when you have an input of knowledge. Can you say knowledge comes in at this point in my organization, it travels and comes out at this point? Do you have that knowledge flow process that you can actually determine? Because that will be able to tell you the knowledge points that you have, or where knowledge is actually falling, or knowledge is coming in, let's say from the research people. They say this is where the country is going into. These are the trending topics, or these are the industries that are doing well. Let's say, for example, in Nigeria or in Kenya. How does that inform? So that information comes in. Maybe it goes to the people in marketing, or if it's an development organizations, to fundraising and to all that, to start seeing what these trends are doing. And then what happened to that information? Does it go to production? Does it go to these other units? So what processes do we have? What are the main processes of the organization or of your business? If it's a production process, again, a production organization or company, when new information comes in as data or as information, when does the conversion happen? So again, try to think of that, or even a whole process of by the time one product is done, or one resource is received or information processed until it becomes a product to be left out in the market. That will inform where your knowledge points comes in again. And then we go to content. Is it important? Yes, it is, because that's what you are working on. These are the resources that we have. This is an information that we have. Where is it stored? How accurate is it? How fresh or how relevant it is and timely? Because remember, we did talk about that proposal. I have 2 drafts that are final 1 and final 2, or final 1, David, final 2, Mary. The way you save with a version, which one is which? So how can we ensure that we have the current knowledge retention policies. So how long can we keep content or information for it to be relevant? Again, linking it with the legal requirements in a country or in an organization. How are we storing it? Are we using taxonomy, for example? Are we tagging it? So again, all that. Then it comes about culture. Knowledge is power. So as much as I know something, I will not be let go, right? As much I am good at something, I will not be fired. But is that the culture you want to promote? Or do we want to promote knowledge sharing is more power? Okay. Do people feel pressured to share when you go for a meeting? Who's always speaking, right? When you think about intellectual properties again in an organization, who holds that? Do I feel like, oh, once I share it out, I am done? I become obsolete. No. So we want to start thinking, how do we promote that knowledge sharing culture? How do we promote learning from failures so that I can come and say, work in progress, I'm working out loud. This is what I'm working on. How do I change that? And finally, technology. It's quite key. Yes, maybe the second to people, because how are we going to enable this knowledge sharing? These are tools. Again, with the times we are living in now, I won't go much on that. We have experienced the growth in technology, but what tools will work for us in terms of technology? It has a cost implementation to it. Is it about licensing? Is it about what works for a bigger organization, franchising, and all that? So these are the 5 components you think about as you develop your strategy. Who are we working for? Who are we hiring? What processes do we have? What determines what is knowledge to us? What determines what is relevant? What determines what is timely? Can I come in and share and acknowledge my failures without promoting, recklessness? And then technology, you are able to the tools and innovation and leveraging what you already have. Okay, so again, what is important for you here? Just think of the 5, bring it back to your organization. All right. Okay. So with that in mind, let's talk about the how now. How do we go about developing the strategy? So we have the 5 components. You are alone. Maybe you are a one-man show. Can you say, now I'm good enough, I can do this, right? Depending again with the organization. Are you a 10,000 staff organization? Are you a global organization? Are you dispersed in the same country? How do you come about with a strategy? A knowledge management team. You can't do it alone. You need people in different units. And if budget and time allows. I've been in a unit or in a position where I had to do all this alone. However, it is doable in that you have to network and collaborate a lot. A lot of legwork is needed. Again, it wasn't a big organization. So it was a 60 staff organization. That makes it different from a 3,000 staff organization. Again, I've been in both. So they all call for different ways of working. So a team will be able to help you do the groundwork that you can't on your own. But the major bit is the knowledge audit. So a knowledge audit is an exercise, a normal audit. However, this is not on fault finding. This is on a fact finding mission. You're not going to fault anything. You need to get a baseline. Remember, I had asked, what do you know in your business? What don't you know? One, what does knowledge look like in your organization? So that's a question you need to ask in this knowledge audit. Where does our knowledge sit? Do we have a placeholder? Do we have a person, right? And then what do we have and what don't we have? So again, a gap analysis in terms of knowledge. We need to find XYZ because our strategy is a 5-year strategy. For us to get to 5 years, what do we know now that will inform our 5-year strategy? So this is the biggest chunk of work when it comes to developing a strategy. Don't just wake up and write a document. try to get some facts. Also, the team that you put together, you need a governance structure, and of course, leadership support. That team will be able to tell you this is how our unit does, because you need to get point people from different teams. If you are a smaller organization, it becomes easier. If you're a bigger organization, you have to work with different teams again, because you will have already teams like data analysis team that are already in place. You have information management that already feel like they are supporting the organization. So what are you coming to tell us? We have the data, we have the information. You will be that answer that tells them this is what informs. Again, linking with the research people, what research is telling us, how do we combine this? Don't try to break the silos. You can work within and around the silos. So you have your data, then develop a business case, right? This is what it will answer. You can get a template of a strategy, because the knowledge audit needs to give you a case study. Like, this is what we need. This is why we need this. And of course, technology and an implementation plan. So the others are a bit, they'll follow each other, and they can come in as you go along. But a knowledge audit is where you really need to put your time in, because again, people will feel like it's an audit. They will call back. They'll be like, what do you need from us? Why are you asking this? And if at all possible, do the least in terms of surveys, online surveys. You will always get a yes, no answer. If you can, have a sit down with people, explain yourself, because I've done a few knowledge audits, and the ones that have been successful is focused discussion and one-on-one. They take time, yes, but schedule for a 10-minute question, with someone. What would you like to see difference with this? And they will, speak their heart out. And that's how you get to know. And then you just go to someone and say, when you need something, when you need to know about XYZ, who do you go to? Because you need to develop something in knowledge management called social network analysis. So social network analysis are those maps that those people that they go to people that are never out there. If I need to know about a product, I'll go to this person. If I want to know about a process, I know this person. And those are the knowledge points and the social mapping that you need to know. This is the go-to person. And most of the time, because we have been doing these things for a long time, we never sit and think, what would happen if this person was to leave, right? So how can we leverage that? How can we ensure that we have these spaces we come and create for knowledge sharing, right? Without putting this person in a spotlight, like we are harvesting knowledge from you. It's more of knowledge sharing and learning from each other. Do you have spaces people come to learn? Those informal discussions during lunch break, tea breaks. How much can you say, or can you quantify that as learning or as knowledge? Because a lot happens in those informal discussions. Can we bring that up into the strategy? And how are we going to make that feed into the organization strategy? Okay. Again, a small pause for this to sort of sit in and sync with you. And again, I'll take you back to your desk. You wake up in the morning. Maybe you're not in knowledge management. Maybe you're not, it's a good to know. But sit and think of that social analysis mapping, right? Who do you go to? Or who do people come to you? I'm always on answering questions. I'm always, can you quantify that time? And could you do a wiki or a frequently asked questions? Could you do micro videos to reduce that? Because again, every time you're answering a question or someone is coming to you, how much time is that going into? How innovative are you? Again, we have our components, we have the process of how to do it. Now, I want us to talk about the structure itself. So how do you structure your knowledge management? Next slide, please. Thank you. Okay. So again, not cast on stone at all. You can be able to tailor this to meet your standards. So of course, as the normal structure of a strategy, of the vision, you have your goal. Let's focus on the value you are bringing to the table, right? Because you need to look at the context. Your audit will be able to tell you the gaps. So what should we do different? What should we do more of, do less of, or remove completely, or do new? So you have the value that you need to show up. You have the knowledge management framework. Again, this is something that can be developed. You need to show expected results. What will you see? What will you see different? And this is not typical of, I wouldn't say it's like any other strategy, because for knowledge management, it's more of behavioral changes, which takes a long time to measure, right? It's more of, you can say, we'll develop a community of practice. And you develop, the first month, 50 people come in, the second month, 10 people, the next, and then it goes trickling down. But when it comes to knowledge management, what will you see different? For example, you can do, maybe your vision is, we'll be able to create more content from the feedback you're getting from clients. We'll be able to be more transparent by sharing the data that we have. So it needs to link to the vision of the organization. What will be done differently? Or what will the organization see different from, let's say, we were sharing knowledge, we were not sharing knowledge, now we are sharing. We were not converting this information to knowledge, now we are. For example, again, like filing system was all over, now we have cleaned up the system. We had like 10 draft of each, every final signed document will supersede all the other information. We are now doing a quarterly cleanup of our system. So that is the kind of results that will be able to be linked to the vision of the organization. What will be done differently? Again, you need the factors. What will enable this to happen? Of course, technology, you need something there. A budget, maybe, or not. Again, from my personal experience, do not be tied to, we need, this amount of money for the year for travel. Again, use the resources that are available, use the meetings or processes that are already there. Let's say, for example, you already have a strategy meeting coming up. How can you pop in or get yourself in the agenda to talk about this ongoing thing? The good thing that can work for knowledge management, learning and development initiatives and all that I've seen work for myself is knowing what organizations' priorities are and integrating your processes in ongoing processes. For example, if it's a performance management process and your processes, how do you come into that and bring in your narrative and try to shift? Okay, so those are the factors that you need to look at in terms of what tools do we have, what already technology are we using, and of course, on the right hand side, you have the action plan. That one you can develop. What do you need to do before, and also the roadmap that will lead you to, linking to the organization, linking to the organization vision and mission. Okay. Again, looking at that, try to think back to what strategies do you have, if you have any. What's the value that you can bring or you can talk about for knowledge management? What would be different if you develop this strategy we've talked about? What would you see different? Would you have more sharing sessions? Would you have more micro videos or mini videos that people talk about what they've done? And how would you quantify informal discussions, right? Do you, people chat during the lunch break, during the tea break? How do you point to those go-to people and leverage on them? Not taking advantage, but trying to leverage on them as assets to the organization. All right, so that is a very general structure of a strategy that you can actually develop. All right, so let's see how can we align. So we've talked a lot about strategy, knowledge management is good, but I want to see how we can actually align to the business. And Adebo, I would request you to go to the next slide before this one. I think there was this one, because this will inform the previous slide. Sorry about that. So we want to align to organization strategy, right? So you have your vision, you have your mission, objectives. You want to reach 100 people by this year. You want to sell these products. You want to, customers are your go-to people. I know that. So when you look at this, there are four big chunks of areas you can think about, right? And from the left, we have the environment that will inform what are you working on, what opportunities do we have, who are our threats. So that is sort of what do we say? It's not obvious, but what informs our strategy? It impacts the strategic context that you are working on. Yeah. In terms of expression barriers, how do we show up ourselves? What are we working on? What are we trying to resolve as an organization? Okay. Because when it comes to strategy, it's about what products are we selling, services, what does our market look like? What are our customers, resource allocation, all that will inform us, whether you are in the private or in the non-profit sector. Whether in the profit or non-profit sector, the strategy will be able to, it's about how you're responding to a niche, a need. What's your niche and all that. And just look at this diagram and see the four areas that will inform your knowledge management strategy. The environment, the strategy, organizational strategy, we have the technology. But what is important is we see where the KM strategy is on the left-hand side. It talks about specification barrier, right? How does what you are responding to as a strategy on the top right inform the innovation you're going to do, the knowledge mapping, competitive advantage? What do you need to know for you to be good at your job or as a company? So the strategy should drive the knowledge management strategy. So I'll use the strategy as an organization strategy, will drive, will inform the knowledge management strategy, not the other way around. So work with your strategy. Am I supposed to bring more? Is it scaling up or scaling across? Am I working with markets? Am I working with customers and all that? And what that means is, let's say if you're providing like regular products, so or services, they're fasting. It's a fast market. So what do you need to produce? You need to have faster response to your customers, or you need to lower the cost of providing this information. Let's say, for example, you have a customer service office. How fast is the turnaround of someone coming to ask a question or a customer asking something and by the time they get an answer? It's not even about placing an order. It's just that customer service. How fast is your customer service response? Is that, if that is let's say, for example, your vision is to, grow big, reduce the number of complaints a customer is getting, reduce the number of time. That's just an objective that you have, to reduce the amount of time a customer takes before they get a response. How will that inform your KM strategy or your information management strategy? Because the person at the customer service, they pick up that call and someone wants to know XYZ, how much does this cost? This person needs to know at the click of a button where to get that information. Okay, so let's not think of, I need a knowledge management strategy. People need to start sharing. It needs to be informed by the strategic context, right? So how fast do you find, again, repetitive knowledge? It's frequently asked questions. How fast can I get that? Do I need to click on this, right? And how repetitive are these? Let's say, for example, from a learning point of view, or under learning management systems administrator, how many times do I get a question from a client to change the password? 30 times a day, right? To change the password. So do I need to go back in there to learn about that, and I have done this 3, 4, 5 times, or 3, 4, 5 years? So that one I can do at the touch of a button. Does it take me time? No, that doesn't take me time. But when because that is fast, it's repetitive work. How does that inform my KM strategy? It's in terms of developing a frequently asked questions, a wiki, a short video on how to do that. Once I share, because a client will come to me and ask me, how do I change my password on my LMS? I'll say, I can do that. It will take me 10 minutes. How do I change my password? Oh, you can do this. I share a link to a video. I've saved myself 9 minutes. Does it matter? Yes, if I'm getting 50 search calls a day. So again, just try to think, how are you coding your knowledge? What kind of service are you providing to your customers? So when it comes to now that if it's customer related, product related, now you start thinking of how does the service provider, now me as an LMS manager, get that information? It comes to codification strategy. We saw that in the previous slide, but we'll talk about it later. Okay. And then if your organization's goals is to maintain the market, so we talked about strategy, products and services. If it's to maintain the market and the competitive advantage, you need to provide high quality but standardized products or services at low prices. Okay, so think of, we just came from products. We need to fast products that are repetitive, so repetitive questions. Now we are coming to, our goal is to manage the market, a lot of products, high quality but standardized, right? So what we need to come there is a good knowledge management technology that will help us to replicate a lot and fast. Okay, so the strategic angle that our organization or our business is in will inform the knowledge management. Okay, then now those are two examples, a product and if you want to grow a market. Then think about if you are providing customized services. Think of a bank. When you go to a bank, this person may not need to know your personal life. You go in, what they need to know is your banking background, or whatever, how much business you've given them, how much they need to treat you well, right? So from there, it's about personalization of the service. So not giving a lot of services, we're personalizing this service to this person. So what that means is knowledge will be stored per customer need, customer segment. We've gone to banks and seen, there's the high end. You go in, you have tea, you have coffee, and then you have the others but they still get personalized service, because when you go to a teller, it's just about to end your account and how much money. So the strategy here will not be about frequently asked questions, because every customer will come with a different question. So it's about personalizing the information. When it comes to about how well do we serve this customer? So it's not about, yes, it's about products and services, but more customers. This person has come, they need your 20 minutes. How much information do I know about this person? How much information do I know about my products that this person will need? So that's the knowledge that will be helped. Then think about it from the creative industry, right? This is where now it's about knowledge. I am the knowledge holder because I'm the creative. How do I manage myself? How flexible am I in my responses? Which talks about managing the tacit knowledge. So now this shifts our discussion to what products am I in, what industry am I in, what resources am I talking about? So focus a lot on the top right and the bottom left. So that is going to help you determine the strategy that will be enabled by the technology. So the technology comes in once you know what am I responding. Okay. So from that discussion we had, so we talk about codification strategy. What do I need to know when I'm searching something? How do I segment my resources? What do I need to put together when it comes to codification? It's getting fast information quickly, faster responses to clients, frequently asked questions. Those things that will take me 1 minute, but I can reduce it to a few seconds. When it comes to personalization strategy, it's about employees finding other subject matter expertise. Because I'm in a bank, that's why you see industries like banks treasure their people so much, because this is someone who has experience in the banking system, experience with clients. They do not want to be let go. So how do we ensure that we're able to tap into those people? How do we personalize the knowledge experiences? For example, if I go into the bank website, I'm not interested in loans. I'm not interested in anything. I just want to see my account. So that's the first thing that will pop up to me. How do we ensure that we are personalizing that knowledge experience? And then, of course, collaborate, integrate with the existing workspaces, processes, and all that. Of course, and monitoring and engaging. All right. A bit rushed up, but I hope you get the concept. But also the main gist of the discussion was on the how do we align. If you can go to the other slide, Ade. Yes, how do we align? So yes, up to that point, how do we align? And final tips: manage the all the three knowledge, and we will be good to go. It's unique to all organizations. It wouldn't be say I can do this. Try and see where does this fit in. Work alongside organization processes, and of course, get leadership support and champions across the organization. So let me pause there and see if there are any reflections first or questions. But feel free to, even beyond these sessions, feel free to reach out to me for one-on-ones or sharing of resources and all that. And I'd thank you for your time and give it back to Adebo for facilitation.